It's Chris Smith time. Oh, hello, everybody. It's me, Chris Smith, and I'm here with the second day of reviews of shows I recently saw in New York on my trip to Broadway. And we're doing a bunch of shows all this week to celebrate Tony Week. And I am reviewing Dead Outlaw, which I saw at the Longacre Theatre on May 14th. Here's the ticket to prove it. You know, I only have 3 paper tickets, so after tomorrow, after the next review for The Great Gatsby, it's all digital. I'm sorry. I love a paper ticket. Now, I got this at TKTS for the discounted price of $72.50. Which isn't too bad. It was an orchestra seat, Orchestra 0104. So, I mean, not 0, O, the letter O, 104. And I sat next to a delightful lady named Patty, and we talked before the show, and she said that she didn't know anything about what she was about to see. Now, I had heard of Dead Outlaw because it was off-Broadway last year, in 2024, and it made some headlines. It got some award notice, and it is a very bizarre show. So, of course, I didn't tell Patty what she was about to see. I told her, well, it's about a dead outlaw. And so the Dead Outlaw is, in fact, a dead outlaw. It's the story of Elmer McCurdy, who robbed a train, or tried to rob a train, and eventually was killed in a shootout with police. And he was taken to the mortician and at the funeral home, and because he didn't have any family to claim the body, the mortician injected him with cyanide mixed with his embalming fluid, which apparently slows the decaying process down. Who knew? So that there would still be enough of a body preserved for the family to claim him eventually. But because people in the town kept coming to pay to see the mummified body, the funeral director eventually decided to sell him to someone who wanted to buy him for like a sideshow attraction. So he was able to turn a little profit, and then the body went on to the sideshow. So basically, the musical, and spoiler alert, but it's a true story, so there's not much to spoil really. The first part of it is his life, and he's alive, played by Andrew Durand, and the second part of the show, he's a corpse. But so anyway, here is a picture of the actual body. Don't worry, kids, it's not too gruesome, so I don't think it'll give you nightmares. Here's Elmer McCurdy. Isn't it funny how back in the day, they just didn't have good social media or good representation of their photos. You might get one good photo or one bad photo. That's all you had of yourself. And here's Elmer's grave. Now, even though Elmer died in 1911, I believe, he wasn't buried until 1977. So that's what's so interesting about his story. He was very busy between the time of his death and the time of his burial, which was, 60 years, 60-ish years. So, let's talk about Dead Outlaw as a musical. So the show is playing at the Longacre Theatre. As I said, it opened on Broadway April 27th, 2025. As I said, I saw it on May 14th, so it hadn't been open for very long. And it was nominated, or is nominated, for 7 Tony nominations, which is pretty good. And it is a folk rock score. There's a lot of actually good rockin' songs in there in this show. The band is on the stage. It's a very simple staging. There's the band's box where the band is. They play some scenes on top of above the band. They have to climb a ladder to get up there. Then there's some scenes on both sides of the stage, but mostly it's a black stage. And just the band area is lit. So it's very interesting having the band right on the stage. I like when that happens sometimes in shows. Here is the cast. And as you know, I love actual playbills from New York because the touring playbills that we get don't have all the stories in them, which it's so nice to actually be able to read stories that go along with the playbill, and to see ads for other shows on Broadway like Hadestown, Operation Mincemeat. It's just nice to get to advertise for the whole community. Okay, so here is the interior of the playbill. It is book and lyrics by David Yazbek and Eric de la Pena, and book by Itamar Moses. And it was conceived by David Yazbek. Now, David Yazbek, you all will remember, did shows like The Full Monty, Tootsie, The Band's Visit. Itamar Moses also wrote the book for The Band's Visit, and they won a lot of Tony Awards. So I've been a fan of David Yazbek for many years. He's done many other shows besides those. So when I heard that he was doing this show, I'm like, okay, that's very interesting. It is directed by David Cromer, who also directed The Band's Visit. So that group is back together for this. The cast is small, but it stars Andrew Durand, who was in Shucked and Head Over Heels, the Go-Go's musical several years ago. He plays Elmer McCurdy. Jeb Brown is the band leader and others. Eddie Cooper is the Coroner Johnson and others. Dashiell Eves is Charles Patterson and others. And Julia Nittel is Maggie Johnson and others. She's very good in this. I'd never seen her before. Ken Marks is Louis Sonny and others. Trent Saunders is Andy Payne and others. And Tom Sesma is Coroner Noguchi and others. So here they all are. So, and then I'm assuming that these are the standbys and understudies down here. So it's like I said, the music is really catchy. It has some ballads. It has that rockin' song, your mama's dead, your daddy's dead, your brother's dead, and so are you, and so are you. Woo! It's very, very fun, loud music. It will have your toes tapping. They also have a very interesting advertising for this show. Hold on, let me show you pictures of Andrew Durand in his coffin. Okay, here he is outside of his coffin as he looks in real life. And here he is. Bum, ba-dum, bum, 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 bum. In his Elmer McCurdy pose. Now, he does such a good job of staying still and not moving, blinking, or breathing during this show. He said he just goes into sort of like a meditative state. And the show, and he'll wait until somebody passes in front of him in the show for him to give himself a chance to blink or something. But they've recently been doing a thing on social media, like on Instagram and YouTube and all that, where they've taken him and his coffin all around New York, in the subway, in Central Park, in front of museums, and have him propped up there, and people come and have their pictures made with him, and he just stands there like, Isn't that amazing and very interesting? So that's sort of the talk of the town. That, and of course, the feud that Patti LuPone is starting with poor Audra McDonald. But that's another story for another time. I didn't even talk about it in Gypsy because why bring it up? But I just did. But so Dead Outlaw. Let's talk about the nominations they got, shall we? Now, when it played off-Broadway, it was at the Minetta Lane Theatre. So it had a bunch of awards that season, including Outstanding Musical in the Drama Desk Awards, Outstanding Book of a Musical, and Outstanding Lyrics. But not music. They split them up, their music and their lyrics. This year, they are nominated for 7 Tony Awards, including Best Musical, Best Actor in a Musical, Andrew Duran, Best Featured Actor in a Musical, Jeb Brown, and Best Featured Actress in a Musical, Julia Nittle. Also, the original score and Best Book are also nominations, and the Best Direction of a Musical for David Cromer. So we will find out who will win, if anyone, next week, June 8th, at the Tony Awards. Now, what did I think of Dead Outlaw? I thought it was a lot of fun. I love the music. I love how different it is. It's not based on anything except a true, very strange story that almost seems like it's not true, but it is. You can read all about Elmer, and they didn't know very much about him. When his body was discovered in a fun house hanging, over the years he had been in movies. He had been in a closet for 20 years, I think. He had been part of a marathon, where this cross-country marathon, the people that ran it would take him to each location, and the runners were trying to win money as they ran across the country. That was one of the little stories in the show, and that was the weakest one because it was like, but, it's different. But yes, so I just thought it was so different and so it's funny. It's touching. It says a lot about death and life and what do our lives mean? What happens after we've died? Most people don't get to continue on being a part of people's lives physically like that after they're dead. But yes, he was discovered in a fun house in San Diego, I believe, and he had been painted red. His body was very, very shrunken and bleh by then. And it was like Dago red that he was painted, and he was hanging as part of like a fright exhibit in the fun house, little things that jump out and scare you. And then a worker in the place, I guess, touched him or something, and his arm broke off, and he noticed bone sticking out. So he screamed for help, and that's when they started trying to trace who this guy was, how he died. Another autopsy was performed, in addition to the original autopsy back in the day in 1911. So, yeah, so when the show was over, Patty, who, as I told you, was sitting next to me, she liked the show, but it wasn't really her cup of tea. I think she liked the music. She didn't like the story. She thought the book was very weak. And I agreed that some of the things were not the strongest things in it, but I really liked the show. It was one of my favorite shows that I saw on this trip, just because it was so strange and so unusual. But the only problem is Elmer McCurdy is not really a likable guy. He hops from place to place, and he didn't have a happy upbringing. He had a unfortunate upbringing, and it led to him, trying to rob banks and stuff. But the music is so much fun, and it's really a fun evening. Just one act, so it's about an hour and 40 minutes, something like that. I got the magnet, of course, and I love the logo. We often talk about logos here. This is simple, a bandana, and I love the different little designs. You've got the guitar, you've got the train tracks, you've got a money bag, you've got the train, and it's simple. And here's the window card, and I love their tagline: "Get rich or try dying." And so here's the whole window card. Longacre Theatre. If you're going to be in the New York area anytime soon, I would suggest you check out Dead Outlaw. If you're looking for a different kind of evening, then this is for you. Okay, and we will find out what happens at the Tony Awards. Okay, I will see you all the next time that it's Christmas time.